Well, hello and welcome back to this GT6 Mk2 restoration project on Red Fox Classics. Now, the past couple of months we've done a lot of work, welding work along the right hand side of the car. The rear is all done, so it's time to move to the front, or move back to the front. So I'm going to get all this stuff cleared off because the car has turned into a bit of a shelf, and then we'll get on start doing some of the rust repair to the front quarter. So let's get on with it. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to get the windscreen back in. This is a replacement. I got lucky and got a California import panel because my original was knackered. Particularly doing this first, even though we're talking about repairing the bonnet, because this is the point where I'm going to start fitting up the whole of the side of the car. And in order to do that, we want the car to be in the right shape and stay in the right shape. And if there's any flex or changes because the windscreen is not actually in the hole it's supposed to be in, then they will be reflected in the panel, and probably not going to be the case because the sills, at least on that side now, should be holding everything in the correct orientation. However, there's not really any point in risking this. Well, that's been a bit of a saga. I've just been trying to find the fixings. Got them now. I put them in a bag and I taped them to the dash top because that's logical. Anyway, so on the bottom of the screen there are three of these loops which correspond to holes in the top of the dash, and they just get a bolt through. That bit is the same as the Spitfire. On the underside of here, yeah, there's a little, I think it's quarter UNF, small bolt on either end. I'm not putting those on at the moment because I don't think they're as important, and the ones I had were destroyed because the windscreen frame I had was destroyed. Then there's these. So they go on that way round, with this crush tube projecting through here. I think it goes through here. Yeah, it pushes through there. And we have this countersunk set screw that goes, or bolt, no, set screw, that goes all the way into the roof, and on the other side of that, these plates. Now, this is all made easier by the fact I have manky old seal here and no fresh paint. I just stuck the old seal back on here. Obviously these are knackered, but for the purposes of putting it back together, it's obviously totally fine. And they'll get changed when it comes time, or get removed properly when it comes time to paint. Now, the way I found this needed to be done was I put the crush tube into the frame on one side, put the bolt through, and then got that through the car body, the roof lip, and was able to just get the nut on by a couple of threads. I then did the same on the other side, and there was enough play that I could then push the bottom of the windscreen in or along the car until it lined up with its bolt holes. I was then able to take the top fixings out, put the plate and the nuts and the washers and everything in properly, and then bolt the whole lot down. I imagine it's going to be a lot more difficult when the car is painted, and there's that to worry about. Keep doing that, don't I? Anyway, that's in, and pleasingly it just went straight in. There was no force required. It doesn't feel like anything shifted, which I wasn't really expecting, but this side of the car is still a little unknown, and it has got some plate over the top type repair work, which, you know, could could be hiding something that was going to destabilise it. Anyway, next job, you might just be able to see, is to put the front valance on. And this is where it all, you know, the long story was, started at the front, didn't have the valance, so I couldn't finish at the front, so I went to the back. Anyway, let's see if we can get this fitted. I'd forgotten that the valance actually goes there. You see we've got this bit. So I'm going to have to take these hinges off and pop the bonnet up a little bit, and then I should be able to slip it in. I've just been in and cleaned up the captive nut in the chassis. So the way it mounts is via these plates. The central one bolts the chassis, and the outer two go on spire nuts on the valance itself. I have to take these off. It's going to mean doing the bonnet adjustment again. I don't really want to have to, but can cheat a bit. So I'm not convinced that this is right. I've taken the bonnet hinges fully off, but I don't think I'd be able to get that valance on without cutting those top sections out. Now I wonder if this is the right balance. That'd be So the part number matches what the part number on the sticker matches part number for the Mark III. Well, yeah, the part number on this valance matches the part number for the Mark III Spitfire Mark II GT6. And the photos I've just found have this section in them. So I probably haven't been sold the earlier one, which is a good step. The old valance, as you can see, it doesn't have a top section, and it doesn't look like it's been cut off either. Okay, been on the internet. That's supposed to come out. Wish I'd realised that before I'd taken the hinges off, or lifted the bonnet up. I'd still need to lift the bonnet up anyway, wouldn't I? I'll actually get to these bolt holes. So when I filmed the last section, my Spitfire wasn't here, it was off being MOT'd, which is why I couldn't come in and look that this had actually would have been cut out. We could see this had been cut out in Spitfire. However, I think these are actually all on upside down, because the valance has been raised up quite a lot more than I think it should be. Because there's a lip on these, which is on the bottom, and on the original valance, on the GT6, the spire nuts on the valance. So I think these are supposed to go with the weld. Anyway, we'll leave that alone for the moment and come back here and attack this with an angle grinder. I'll attack this older one with an angle grinder, try and get off some of the brackets, and try and save some of these spire nuts, at least temporarily. So I got these bits bolted on, brackets, whatever they are, And now I can cut that out. I thought it probably better to actually put the stiffness in there via the bracket before chopping away this reinforcement. Well, that's the Valance roughly hung on, and you know, it's all a bit of a mess. This side is feeling a bit better, because that lines up. It is looking though like this is the centre of the grill is dipped in. It's the centre of the grill aperture. That needs to go down. That needs to go down. And this section doesn't look like it meets up properly. And this is, I fiddled a lot with this because this was detached from the rest of the car. So I tried to get the angle right based on the other one. But maybe I'm wrong, because it looks like, well, looks like the Valance flows with the wing. And that doesn't then flow with this. Now the bonnet's not, you know, I need to get the bolts in the bonnet, that might change things. But I'm wondering with this, you see these holes in the original Valance. Now there's holes all there, which look like a dent puller's been put in. Old style dent puller. And if that's so, if that's the case, maybe we've got a shunt here, which push this in. So that's come touching. Anyway, I need to have a play. I probably need to get the cones back in the rear of the bonnet and put it on properly and check I'm happy with where I can get the Valance. I get the Valance bolted on properly because I haven't got the brackets under there in yet. Yeah, I'll get on with that and we'll have a look at it a bit later. So, I've been sparing you having to watch me fiddle around, undo bolts, do them back up again, change more bits, so on and so forth. I've got the Valance bolted on. Now, I had to adjust these brackets a bit because I'd straightened them out again and I think I'd straightened them too much, so I had to make sure that that bend was nice. I've got the Valance sitting on pretty evenly now. So these brackets on both sides sitting about in the middle of the chassis. Had to straighten this top bit of chassis a little bit because it was bent down there. They're on. I think the Valance is in about the right place. Doesn't have a great deal of adjustment. I have noticed this is a lump there, so there's something up and down. That needs to not be up and down. Obviously I've got the bonnet on its hinges again with the hatches, with the latches in. And what do I need to, actually it needs to go up a little bit more. So I need to adjust the bonnet cone up there down a bit, because the bottom of the wing is nicely in line with the sill, but it's too tight, so that needs to go up. But yeah, what we get, yeah, because the Valance doesn't have a great deal of adjustment. I'm having to make the bonnet be happy with Valance. And in doing that, I'm not sure that all of this area is in quite the right place yet. If you were watching a while ago, I had to rebuild this whole front end from scratch because someone in the past had cut all of this away and the wheel arch had been taken out. So there's repairs to the wheel arch I've had to make, and then obviously there was no reference for any of this, and I built a structure out of welded rod and tried to line everything up, but it's maybe not quite right. Anyway, I'll shut the bonnet and we can have a look at that. Now this is what I mean. That I can get to line up with Valance. That distance in from the valance to here is about 3/4 of an inch. Here, where I've done my repairs, the distance from the valance to this bit is about an inch. And I think this all sorts of fits together because if this was to tilt forward, it would come down and come closer to here, which is what we need because there's quite a big gap up there. And not so much here, though we're starting to get into areas of repair there, but I think that's okay. This wing doesn't beat up very well at all. I don't think, as I said, this is a bit of a lump here, so I think that needs to be corrected. I don't think it's the bonnet needs to drop, because that needs to come in this direction. It's all quite difficult to explain. Makes sense in my head. So I'm feeling like I'm going to cut some of this apart, which is it's fine really. It's kind of the important thing is I need. Well, this is too tight now. Well, that's interesting. This is too tight. Is that too tight? Yes. Okay, so the bonnet needs to go forwards, which will bring all of this forwards a little bit, but not enough because we're fine here. Too tight there. Too wide there. Bonnet goes forwards on that side. This gap will close up. I'll give that a try. I was able to wiggle the bonnet a tiny bit forward, but it hasn't made a great deal of difference. Which means I think I'm pretty confident that I need to do a bit of adjustment around here, which was kind of what I was expecting. I mean, this is why I wanted to get the valance and get it on before committing to any of the rest of this. So I'm actually going to leave this a day or so, or overnight rather, and have a bit of think of, double check myself before I start cutting any more stuff. So I will see you in a couple of seconds. Well, I've had another bit of a mess with valance again this morning, and I've concluded that, well, I've decided I'm happy with where it is, and that this bit here is definitely dropped down. You can actually see it in the pressing, and there's a little bit of a crinkle here as well, so it's just not been pressed very well. So I'm going to see if I can get that out, or get that altered. And if I can't, I might graft on the corner of the original valance. Still, that edge dips down. I can't seem to move it upwards, which is not really surprising because it is the fold. Well, the original one does appear to drop away a little bit at the end there. Still not that much. Yeah, so I'm going to graft this chunk onto here because that is much smoother, and that'll have a nicer flow of that corner. So I'm going to give this a bit of a blast and then cut this off and get it fitted in. That's cleaned up alright, a little bit of a hole, but we can deal with that. What I'm going to do is just cut the corner off because it's preventing me from fitting up the piece right to the edge. So that's got to move both along and down. So I'm going to try and cut on these lines. That's feeling like it probably go on there quite well, but needs a little trim off on that edge. Okay, that is fitting nicely on there. So I'm going to put a bit of primer on the inside just to cover the corner that's going to overlap with the bracket. And because it's going to be awkward to get to, excuse me, later on. Then I can get that bit in and continue doing what I was starting off doing. See if we can make the bonnet happier, or at least me be happier with the bonnet. So now I'm taking the valance as being in its final position. I'll start to cut some of this apart. So what we will do first is take the screw out that's just in here, detach this from the D-plate. Then I'm going to try and cut down there so I can pull this out and down a little bit because it needs to meet up here. Then if I can get that fixed in place, I can take the D-plate out. Focus has not happened. And I'm going to have to add a bit to the edge of the D-plate because I cut a bit off of it. And then position that in the right place, which I think is going to just involve tilting it downwards. And if I'm happy with the D-plate, then I can get this wing cut and shaped to match the D-plate, which will then give me the guide to kind of fill out this area. So let's see what happens. Okay, so that has worked. Let's come up a little bit further. So now that's out, I'm just going to add a little extra strip back on here and cut it back to that sort of radius. Well, actually I'm going to base it on the left hand. So I've gone back to clamps because I've had to drop the whole D-plate that little bit down, and I now think it's in a good position. So I'm going to have to drill some more holes to be able to hold it temporarily in place, so I can shut the bonnet again and see, because the bottom, this bit of the wing is lining up okay, but I seem to remember that being a bit too wide when the wing was just hovering, so I've got to check it. Maybe it will be the last time, and ideally I want to get the D-plate in, and then that becomes the reference for everything else. So I think that's actually good, because where the end of the D-plate is there, where my finger is, and that is the same sort of spacing as there. That's nice and even, and this is obviously not right. So there's a little bit of surgery needed there. Maybe the wing can be manipulated, but I'm happy with the D-plate. I think it's definitely that bit's good. And if this is sitting evenly, then that's actually a good line. Making this agree is going to be the right way forward, I think. So I think what that means is I can actually get D-plate primed and welded in. Oh, I realise I don't even need to take it apart because the D-plate came with this zinc coating on it. So come on. I've got some big touch-up to do to fill in all the various little Cleco holes and screw holes. However, that can come later. And also this gives me a bit of an out if for some reason I decide this went wrong. These are a bit easier to remove than plug welds or extra MIG weld would be. I think this is where I want my line to be. This gap here then is still a little wide, but it seems to be normal-ish. Anyway, if I measure from there to the ground, or there to the ground, it's 23.5 inches, and the same along this line. So that's what I'm going to aim for. I may decide to come and do a bit more Valance surgery, but I think for the moment I want to get the wing sorted. Then I can either build this bit or the lip of the wheel arch, which is still not in there. So what I did here was cut along my tape line, not all the way because the Valance only really needed to be adjusted towards the front end. Then I was able to push that little bit of metal up, scribe along where it overlapped, cut that little sliver away, and then just pop it up to meet with the flange met with the edge of the wing again. I get it welded in place and ground down. So that is welded and ground, and I also came in here, put a little cut in and opened that up a tiny amount. Still some junk inside I need to tidy up when I've got a little bit better access. So now I can pop the bonnet up and get some drillings for Clecos there so I can hold the front wing in place. Same where those mold grips are sat, just in the rear, or the rear of the wheel arch there. And then this will be solid enough and shouldn't move, and I'm going to be able to take it off again and build up the indicator area and the inside of the wheel arch. Got the remains of the wheel arch pinned in and the front of the wing. So bonnet is ready to come off again, where it will be less hard to get to that and inside here. But for that, you'll have to wait till next time, because I need to have it tidy up, I need to get the bonnet back off the car, and so on and so forth, which means this is a good break point for this episode. It's been a fair bit of fitting up, got the windscreen on the car, got the Valance on the car, got that tidied up, then got the bonnet, the remaining bits, or some of the remaining bits of the bonnet done to make it stable so it can come off again. It means we're slowly getting towards the point where this right hand side of the car is actually complete, which is quite exciting. So if you want to see the next bits, please make sure you're subscribed. It doesn't cost anything and it will help me out. Thanks everyone who already is subscribed. Thanks for coming back. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.